Welcome to the Missouri Liberty Alliance. Today is Thursday, October 28th, 2021. Welcome back, gang, and welcome to any new members that have started up since the last video. Sorry about the little blackout there, gang. I had too many things going on. I'm going to make this a SAPA video, so that's a heads up. Another heads up is it might be a slightly longer video, and I apologize about that because, as we know, we have a batch of scientists that have actually proven now conclusively that it is apparently impossible for me to make a short video. So we'll find a way to deal with that. We'll find a coping mechanism, and we'll move on here. But we need to talk about SAPA. And not only are we going to talk about SAPA, it's about Missouri SAPA, by the way, the Second Amendment Preservation Act. But I want you guys to share this. This is a video that I want to go far and wide so other states can see what we're dealing with after the fact when people want to take away our new law that we fought so hard for, and what their reasons are, what they're publicly stating their reasons are. And then we'll get into their private reasons, so which we do have access to some of that, by the way. So this is an article that was put out by gun owners, or Georgia gun owners. And they were basically talking about our SAPA law that we passed. We're setting the Wayback Machine for May, by the way, when we did get SAPA passed before it was signed by the governor in June. But talking about SAPA and what we got passed, how unique it is, the fact that there is an enforcement mechanism, which we call the teeth of the bill, $50,000 fine for any violation to the SAPA law, which is basically federal gun laws don't apply in the state of Missouri anymore. So if local law enforcement assists anyone federally coming in, they get fined. And of course, if anyone comes in from the Fed, in other words, like the FBI, the ATF, things of that nature, then you can call up your sheriff and say, hey, listen, I got the ATF at my doorstep, and they're saying there's this silly new law out of D.C. saying that, I need to turn in my AR-15, and they're knocking on my door right now, and they're wanting to, I need you to come out here. Well, the SAPA law says your sheriff, your law enforcement, literally has to protect your Second Amendment rights. So therefore, we got a lot of goodies in with our bill. A lot of wonderful, wonderful side benefits to having SAPA with teeth. Okay, I'm not going to go any further with this, but it'll be linked down below like everything else is every time, gang. Okay, so fast forward 4 months. Mike Parson had already signed SAPA into law in June. And then in September, so technically 3 months later, he's starting to backpedal on SAPA just a little bit, responding to Southeast Missouri law enforcement concerns. So, apparently SAPA doesn't work very well. We're going to find out why in just a little bit here, gang. So also Aaron Dorr with the Missouri Firearms Coalition reported on this as well. It's actually reporting that that Parsons plans to weaken SAPA next session. Well, I can't say that for sure, but I think Aaron's intuition is pretty much on the mark here. So let's go to a video that was put out. This is by KFES. This is an affiliate of someone, Fox News, I think, in what we call Southeast Missouri, the Cape Girardeau, and the Boot Heel of Missouri, a place that doesn't get a whole lot of attention from time to time, I guess. And now they're getting attention. So let's watch the video together. I'll try not to comment too much during the video, by the way. Oops.
The guns that we've been able to take off.
I'll start over.
This is just a sampling of some of the guns that we've been able to take off the street by working with our federal partners.
But in Cape Girardeau, that partnership is on hold. Chief Wes Blair put out guidance to his officers ahead of the Second Amendment Preservation Act taking effect. Now, if a federal agency requests anything, it has to go all the way up the chain of command.
And even the criminals now see that our hands are being tied on that, and we can't even work together.
You've got a line in here.
The criminals see that our hands are tied in this matter. We can't work together. So what he's saying, by the way, this was terrible. I mean, what he's basically saying is, criminals, we're advertising in the state of Missouri, you'll have a lot better time being a criminal in our state because we don't have the Fed in here. And that is, first of all, that's patently false. And number two, it's fear-mongering. It's fear porn. We're getting it from law enforcement in Missouri, Southeast Missouri now. Let's continue listening.
These steps may seem overreaching and absurd.
They do seem overreaching and absurd.
One of the biggest concerns about SAPA, the exact definition of providing a federal agency material support.
Can they not even meet in our parking lot before they go do a search warrant that might involve a gun? Is that providing material support?
Have you had to make any of these decisions yet?
We have. We've been asked to download phones for a federal agency on a case that might have involved guns, and we've told them no. We've been asked to go help serve a search warrant just this week, and we've said, no, I'm sorry, we can't.
In a statement, a spokesman for the Missouri State Highway Patrol says they've suspended their work with ATF, and troopers cannot work on any federal case involving a weapons violation.
I'm just afraid that violence is going to increase.
And if a Missouri department takes that risk, it will cost
He is
them.
afraid, all right, I'll
It
tell you that.
subjects law enforcement officers to a $50,000 fine per occurrence of assisting any federal authority with prosecution of any weapons charge.
If it happens in your hometown, that's $50,000 of your taxpayer money.
There's so many departments, especially in southeast Missouri, that scratch to make their ends meet on a daily basis, that can't hire enough officers, that can't afford enough officers as it is.
Well, we're 6 people down right now, so we'd be 7 or 8 people down if something like that happened.
Let's say that we have a bank
SAPA's
robbery,
defunding
more
the
times than
police.
not, that involves
That's
a gun.
obviously
The
what's
FBI
going
is
on
going to be
here.
responding at the same time we are. Does that mean we tell the FBI we can't go to a bank robbery with you now?
It's my understanding we can't reach out and contact them.
But the FBI would be there. They have to by law.
If they find out about it, correct.
And I guess they would.
So that's the gray area of,
Yeah.
do you reach out and contact them?
Could a phone call cost you $50,000?
It could.
I've already had 4 local attorneys tell me that they cannot wait for me to refer federal gun cases to the feds for prosecution for gun-related offenses, because they cannot wait to sue me.
But even that concern does not make it any easier for Butler County Prosecuting Attorney Casey Proctor and others to express their concerns about SAPA.
I'm sure that people will think that I'm anti-firearm, and probably people will accuse me of being pro-Biden or something of that effect. But in the end, I'm a law enforcement official. It is my duty to keep my community safe.
Personally, I think politics really doesn't belong in public safety.
And that's why all these men sworn to serve and protect
Really?
want you to help
We'll talk
them
about that in a
sound the
second.
alarm.
Politics
They're
don't
going to
belong
have
in
to
public.
fix this, or we're going to have criminals running rampant throughout southeast Missouri.
Shame on you, sir.
In fact, Chief Whiteley just updated me on a case in Poplar Bluff he says really highlights the situation that they're in. Last Friday, they arrested this man, 27-year-old Octavian Brown, on assault, stalking, and weapons charges. Brown is accused of forcing his way into an apartment with a pistol and assaulting his ex-girlfriend, who had a full protection order against him. Chief Whiteley tells me this is the kind of case they would refer for federal prosecution, but if they do it now, his community would face that $50,000 fine. Now, Whiteley and some of the other law enforcement leaders I interviewed tell me they are in contact with their local legislators to see what can be done to fix the Second Amendment Preservation Act, and that's what they want, to have it fixed. Now, I've reached out to them, and I will let you know what happens next.
Okay, gang, before I go forward commenting on that video, shame on these men, by the way. Shame on them. All of them. And we can probably analyze this in a group setting a lot better. But I'm going to introduce you to a word. It's a word that sounds Lady Gaga. Have you guys ever heard of Lady Gaga? She's like a pop singer. Gaga, G-A-G-A, Gaga. And Gaga is what I named my blanket that I had when I was a baby. So every baby has a blanket. It's their security blanket. You know, it's always there for them. And, basically it's kind of a symbol of something that never changes, something that remains the same, and something that they always have, and it just never goes away. And I remember when I think I was 4 years old when my parents took away my Gaga. And I was upset. I threw fits. I had withdrawals. I even remember what that blanket looked like when they took it away. It was a shredded mess. But it was my Gaga. And I was upset. And I was throwing temper tantrums. I was crying for days. I couldn't get used to not having my Gaga for a while. And I think I do remember getting it back for a little bit, and then it was gone again when, you know, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, something like that. What I saw in this video is a bunch of grown men being upset about their Gaga being taken away. They're going through withdrawals, gang, of not having the Fed money, Fed charge codes. Hell, they even make it sound like they're afraid to do anything without the Fed. That's what they make it sound like. This is fear porn. This is fear mongering. What that one gentleman said, you know, basically, well, you know, criminals are going to love being in Missouri now. They're going to love it here, you know, because we can't do anything anymore. We have laws in the state of Missouri. We have law enforcement to enforce the laws we have in the state of Missouri. But these people, these men in southeast Missouri, want to make the laws that they enforce. That's not the way it works in a society like ours. That is the way it works in communism. So, I mean, if they're advocating for communism, you know, maybe we could, you know, give them a little more consideration, but we're not communists. At least we don't want to be. Shame on you, all these gentlemen that showed up in this video. This is terrible. You know, basically, what did he say again? Let's listen to that. I remember that.
Help them sound the alarm.
They're going to have to fix this, or we're going to have criminals running rampant throughout southeast Missouri.
They're going to have to fix this, or we're going to have criminals running rampant in southeast Missouri. Okay, you heard it here first. He's a police chief. I don't think he's a sheriff. This is the silliness that we have to deal with on this, gang. Why is it 4 counties in southeast Missouri that have such a big problem with SAPA? Why is it that they can't get used to the fact that we're saying no to the Fed? We're nullifying. In fact, I'll make another video about this really soon. We've nullified the School Board Association in the state of Missouri. Our school boards are no longer linked to the Federal School Board Association. We're nullifying things. This is a good thing. The federal government is overreaching, overbearing. It's getting its fingers in every pie, and they're taking control of our lives. They're trying to take control of our states. For what reason? These men right here agree with that, apparently. And here's my problem with these men. And once again, shame on all of these men that want the Fed back in. My rights come before your conveniences, period. Period. I don't give up my God-given right to self-defense, the right to bear arms, because you want a charge code. Go to the state of Missouri and try and change it if you're upset about the charge codes in the state of Missouri. If you're upset about incarceration in the state of Missouri because you want to send someone to the federal penitentiary, you deal with the state of Missouri, just like I had to get SAPA done. All these guys are just, gosh darn it, don't respect any of them. I mean, this is awful. I really wish these guys could pull on their big boy pants right now and deal with the fact that we are trying to get rid of federal overreach. This is bigger than them as individual law enforcement men. This is about the Fed coming in and controlling things. This is about preventing the Fed from doing red flag laws, from doing confiscations. You know, you heard what they said publicly. Now you want to know what they said privately? Get rid of the teeth. The enforcement mechanism for SAPA must go. This is done by phone calls, gang. And Casey Rich, I want to say thank you very much. This is what they're saying. Get rid of the teeth. And then we'll have an impotent bill like every other state has across this land that got SAPA passed. That's what these guys want. So 4 counties in southeast Missouri. My God, it almost sounds like a crime syndicate or a mafia or something going on down there. Maybe what they really miss is civil asset forfeiture and qualified immunity. That's what they're missing. It's not so much their Fed buddies. I don't know. What the hell is wrong with these 4 counties? Why are they crying so hard, like when I cried when my got taken away? Why are they throwing fits in front of the press like this, like I did when my got was taken away? So apparently, when we got SAPA done and signed into law, we took away these men's gaga. Now, we should have some compassion because withdrawal symptoms and pains can be very real. But why these 4 counties? Interesting. Well, think about it. We'll talk about it some more. Okay, I do this a lot. I want to bring up the 10th Amendment Center. Michael Bolden and Mike Mahari, 2 very, very hardworking men, run a YouTube channel. We kind of call them our partners, and we advertise for them. Great organization, and Michael Bolden's work is unparalleled and unsurpassed, and I don't think there's anyone else doing what he is doing. So my hat's off to Mike Mahari and Michael Bolden. But back in March, when we were fighting to get SAPA passed, they were kind enough to release an article talking about the Missouri Sheriff's Association, which I know a little bit about. It's a private concern. It's a private entity. And what they do is they lobby for cash in D.C. They get the cash, they repackage and re-grant it to sheriffs all across Missouri, those who are in the Sheriff's Association. By the way, it's not a requirement for a sheriff to be a part of the Sheriff's Association in the state of Missouri. In case anyone was thinking that was kind of a requirement, or you were automatically entered, because you're a sheriff, because you're a county and you're a sheriff. That is not the case. This is a private organization, and you pay dues, just like you would, for any other, organization, of this nature. But the benefits of being in the Sheriff's Association is certain types of training and grant money and items. Things, not necessarily cash, but things. And this is what they do. They get they get money from the federal government and they re-grant it to sheriffs. But that is a backdoor way for the Fed to get into law enforcement in Missouri, isn't it? This might be part of the GACA being removed, is that there's not as much money flowing through the Sheriff's Association anymore from the Fed to the sheriff's departments. And other entities too. I don't know that it's just sheriffs, that they probably do things for 911 as well or something else like that. If you have a 911 center, you can apply for a grant with the Sheriff's Association that no one else can get unless they also have a 911 center in their sheriff's department. I'm getting technical. I need to stop. But I'm going to link this down below because this is an interesting article. And thank you, Mike Mahari, for writing this. But it basically, I'm going to read the summary here real quick. It is clear that these changes, that the MSA has no desire to stop federal gun control. In fact, much like the NRA. The NRA doesn't seem to be interested in stopping federal gun grabs either, I'll tell you. But it appears they want to craft a bill that will empower state and local police to cooperate not only with enforcement of all existing gun control, but every federal gun law that comes down the pike in the future. That seems right, doesn't it? You guys heard what these Southeast lawmen are saying to the press, to the news. It's just problem after problem after, after we got SAPA, we just can't do anything anymore. We want our GACA back. We want our GACA. This is what it seems like. So privately, like I said, with phone calls to some of these people, I'm not going to say who yet, but they said literally the enforcement mechanism has to go. And they recognized that that would totally gut SAPA. They knew it. And they said, we can't think of what we can do to put in its place yet. We need smart people to come together and figure out what we can do after we take out the enforcement mechanism to have it still have meaning. Well, I'm here to tell you, it's do or die. Either you have enforcement mechanism with penalties or you don't. It's that simple. And I'm not a law enforcement man. How can I figure this out? And these guys are saying, well, there's something that no one's thought of yet. This isn't string theory. We're not talking 11 dimensions here. I mean, this is really simple stuff. These 4 counties want SAPA gone. And they're all in the same area. What's up with that? I wonder. Okay. This will be linked down below. And let's go ahead and listen to Mike Bolden talk about the Supremacy Clause. It matters because we're going to talk about court now. So let's listen to Mike Bolden on this video.
It's a common claim that the Supremacy Clause of the Constitution means that federal law is always supreme over conflicting state laws. But this view flips the original legal meaning of the clause on its head. Let's start with the text of the Supremacy Clause itself. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby, anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary notwithstanding. Note the key words, in pursuance thereof. The mere fact that the federal government does something does not give it supremacy. It must find roots in the enumerated powers delegated in the Constitution, and at the same time, it must not violate the Bill of Rights.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there because Mike made a great point there. We're talking about Supremacy Clause in the United States Constitution. This is how they claim they can get rid of SAPA in the state of Missouri by using Supremacy Clause from the United States Constitution as the measure for showing that it is illegal and unconstitutional. This is not the case when it has to do with your rights, the 10 Amendments. So if they think Supremacy Clause can get rid of, basically anything a state does that the federal government says is illegal, then they would be violating the 10th Amendment to begin with. I mean, it's a circular reasoning, circular logic is what they call it. You can't take away people's rights with Supremacy Clause from the federal government. Technically, you can't take them away even on a state level. You can't take them away on a federal or on a state, but they do it all the time. And they use all these squirrely excuses, these technical excuses, these constitutional. The Constitution's very, very complicated. You need to go to college for 8 years and get a PhD before you can even begin to understand what it means. No, it's pretty simple. Let Mike continue.
Alexander Hamilton covered this in Federalist 78. He wrote, "There is no position on which depends clearer principles than that every act of a delegated authority contrary to the tenor of the commission under which it is exercised is void. No legislative act, therefore, contrary to the Constitution, can be valid." What does this mean in practice when federal and state laws conflict? Well, in general, if the federal law is in pursuance of the powers delegated in the Constitution, federal law is supreme. And in general, when it's not, state law wins. Otherwise, the Supremacy Clause would say this: this Constitution and any other act that Congress in its infinite wisdom decides to pass shall be the supreme law of the land. But it doesn't. Federal laws not made in pursuance of the Constitution are not supreme. They're void and should be treated that way too.
Okay, that's the end of that particular video, but I want to thank Michael Bolden, first of all, for permission to use his material on our channel, but also for that excellent explanation. Because believe it or not, the Department of Justice is still backing up certain entities and people in the state of Missouri taking this to court, saying you just can't have this. You can't nullify federal gun law in the state of Missouri because of federal supremacy, the clause in the Constitution, federal, Supremacy Clause. You can't do it. It can't be done. But it's in pursuance of, period. Literally, it has to do with the restrictions on government, not on your rights. It doesn't apply. Your rights are in the 10 amendments to the Constitution. So, okay, here's another thing. I'm going to bring this up too. This is a video that Mike did literally just yesterday, and he mentions us in it, but also too, he makes a couple of good points about Second Amendment Preservation Act in this. So, and once again, thank you to Mike Bolden for permission to use your material in our videos, and we really love you and respect your work. Mike Mahari as well, by the way. Here we go.
This stuff is totally topsy-turvy, upside down. So legalizing on a state level, once you get to 14, 15, maybe a dozen states, probably less than that, you start seeing their ability to increase enforcement break down, and then to even sustain it break down much quicker. And then as you keep ramping up, small things grow great by concord. Now, it's not just weed, it's happening finally. We've been pushing for a long time on this. We're starting to see it happen, and thank you to the great people in Missouri. I saw Missouri Liberty Alliance, Liberty Revolutionary, of course, Ron Calzone, Dave Rowland, and so many other great people in Missouri who have been working on this, whether some people for just a few 6, 8 months or a year, other people for 8 years straight. to opt the state out, to ban the state from participating in the enforcement of a large swath, not everything, but a large swath of federal gun control measures, all of which shouldn't exist. They should get to all of them all the time and then follow up by repealing all the state-level gun control, but one step at a time. So we see a huge effort in Missouri with the Second Amendment Preservation Act passing, and then a more narrowly defined similar piece of legislation in Arizona. So these are the two big ones. There's been other efforts that are smaller, for example, in Montana and elsewhere, and in Texas, they're taking this approach just on sound suppressors. They've basically grandstanded and pretended they did a broader one, but that one's garbage. But their piece of legislation to ban enforcement on sound suppressors is a positive step forward. Now, it's really up to the people in these states to start exercising their rights, despite the fact that the federal government says it's illegal to do so. And that's so important. Without that resistance, the federal government never has any government, federal, local, state, whatever. No government has any reason to keep itself in check if people allow it to get out of check. So I did a whole episode.
Okay. And once again, thank you to Mike. He made a couple of good points here. And first and foremost, I mean, it's common sense. It's something everyone knows instinctively. Why do you go to the federal government to protect yourself from the federal government? You don't. Okay. In this case, when you're nullifying, when you're using the 10th Amendment, using the state to protect its people from the federal government. That's what nullification is all about. And we've done it on some levels. Like, for instance, I talked earlier, I need to make another video about it. I have a lot of stuff here that that I have not been able to do video on, but I do need to talk about Back on Track, an organization that's looking to do something very similar, which is nullify all kinds of things having to do with something called critical race theory. And I'm not even sure I can talk about this on YouTube. I need to review the terms of YouTube to see if I can even talk about that subject without getting the channel shut down, because that seems to me one of the topics that they would be very sensitive on. But okay, censorship aside, Mike is making a point here. Nullification, or in other words, saying for a state to literally say we don't acknowledge this federal law anymore, is extremely important. And we don't want to be alone. We want more states doing it. So this is why I asked you guys to share this at the very beginning of the video. We need more states to get SAPA with teeth. Or states that got SAPA without teeth, they need to go back and get the teeth. We have a problem with Southeast Missouri. And we're going to investigate. We're going to look into it and find out why 4 counties clustered together have such a huge problem. It's very interesting. You'd think it would be more sporadic than that. Be a county here, a county there. 4 counties close together, apparently. They have a big drug problem down there or something. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, let's look into that. Let's figure out why these 4 counties are missing their GACA. Okay, but that's it for this video, guys. It went on for a long time. I apologize about that, but I thank you for joining us again today. We'll do a live stream on Sunday night at 7:30 p.m. That's this coming up Sunday. I believe that would be the 31st. So would that be Halloween night? Would that be a good night for a live stream? Comment down below and let me know. Please share, like, subscribe, do all the things. Comment. Help us trip the algorithms, gang, because YouTube is giving us a really hard time lately. But I want to thank you once again. I want to say something. I really appreciate you guys. I mean, for all of you that helped get SAPA done, you guys got SAPA done. We got it with teeth. Like I said, we shouldn't be the only state with it, but it feels pretty good. And now apparently there's people that want to take it away from us, but we expected something like that would happen. Now we get to hear their excuses, and we get to understand why they're missing their GACAs, I think, in a much broader sense anyway. But I think we can see past that and look at the other things like civil asset forfeiture, qualified immunity. These are things they lost when SAPA went away. Funding. Missouri Sheriff's Association losing funding. Maybe, I don't know. We'll look into it. Missouri Sheriff's Association is not very open about their funding, by the way. The only information we have is from audits, past audits. And that was pretty interesting, too. We'll do another video on that. We did a video, I think, a year ago about that. But thank you again for spending a few minutes with us, learning more about SAPA. the forces that are raging against it right now, stemming from 4 small counties in southeast Missouri that you never hear about. It's like a news blackout down there, except when they want something to get out. They have something to complain about or something, it seems like. So I love all of you, and I'm very grateful that you're with us here in the Alliance and that you're working with us to make Missouri the best, freest state in this blessed United States. It's an honor to know that people are moving here because of the things that we're accomplishing here. But these things don't get done easily. They take a lot of work. So hopefully you'll join us and help us, to, once again, make Missouri the best, freest state in these blessed 50 United States. That's it for now, gang. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and may God bless each and every one of you and all of your families. Take care, gang.